Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching. Welcome to Hey Y'all Hey Morning Radio Show. I am Casey from Ormsby Farm.
And I'm Monica from Bland's Promised Land Ranch.
And Sandy from Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. I know y'all are saying, oh, there's one missing. Yes, Miss Ann Dale is on a well-deserved vacation today and will be back next week on the show. So we wish her and her husband Worth the best of time on their little vacation, and we will see her next week. So, Monica, I think we should say some hellos to people that are in here.
Well, so far we've got Teresa Jukowitz. Hello, Miss Teresa. How are you? Welcome in.
Hello.
She's our only visitor in the chats today. I'm looking at my other chats, and I think she's the only one that said hello besides me and Sandy and you. Welcome, Teresa.
Say hello. So I guess we'll jump into it because this. Oh, we have.
I see Jesse from Lazy Days Ahead. But Jesse, hey, thank you for being in here.
Hello. So we are talking tomato. That was our podcast subject this week. Everything tomatoes, which I read is the most Googled, most talked about, most used vegetable in a homesteader's garden. I mean, I guess I could have guessed that. I mean, it is kind of obvious it's used for a lot of things. But Sandy, what did you think about this week's episode?
Well, it was just so fun because I love tomatoes. At any given summer, I could have 30, 40, 50 different kinds of tomatoes growing just because I want to try them all. Right. In fact, my husband, Joe, says yesterday, why are there so many tomato plants, different kinds? And I said, because there can be. Yeah. Why not? Why not try? Some will grow better in different areas, different regions, different weather, different soils. I think it's fantastic that you can pick from 15,000 different kinds of tomatoes.
And a lot of the different tomatoes are used for different things. Like when I first started gardening, I was the super newbie that was like, what's the difference between a paste tomato and a slicer tomato? People are saying, oh, did you go slicers? And I'm like, I guess I'll be slicing them. Yeah, but
people be talking to you like that, really.
Well, out in this little area, I mean, they should have known that I didn't really know what I was talking about at first. But to learn that, the reason they're called sauce or paste tomatoes is because they make a better sauce. They're not as water filled as the other ones, and they thicken up all nice and pretty. But we talked about a lot of different varieties of tomatoes that I think I can speak for me and Ann. Neither one of us knew the ones. There's one called pink accordion, and let me tell you, Sandy talked about it, and the reason I remember that one is because it's the coolest name ever. It is the coolest name. Like, I'm gonna go pick some pink accordion.
It's one of my favorites. It's just such a good flavor. It has a lot of meat in it, so you could use it as a slicer if you wanted to. But I've cooked. I've thrown it in goulash. I've thrown it in casseroles. I just love it, and I love that it's just ribbed like an accordion. It makes it more fun. So why not?
Well, is it kind of shaped and looks like a brandy wine? Because the brandy wine has those kind of ribs around, or.
Well, the accordion ones, because you can get it in pink, red, orange, much more ribs.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's just in and out, in and out, in and out. And it's just a fabulous tomato. And during the podcast, we went around and we said our favorite ones, and that was fun. And we talked about all the different colors, because a lot of times people just think, oh, a tomato, it's red. But what about the orange ones and the pink ones and the multicolored ones?
Yep.
White, green, purple, black. And I just think it's fabulous.
I think all of us agree that the Cherokee purple was kind of a favorite of all of ours. I mean, it's a really prolific, wonderful tomato. Even for newbies, I think one good thing about tomato plants is they are very newbie friendly. Like if you're nervous about starting a garden, you can plant in tomatoes, and they do take a lot. I mean, they're one, like we were saying, that if you start multiple different seeds of the tomato in one single spot, you can pull them apart and separate them before you're planting, and they'll be fine with it. Some plants don't really like you to mess with their root system. Tomatoes are like, yeah, okay, I'll put up with you.
Yeah.
I'll put up with you, and I'll still produce a lot of food. So I think I think that's a great newbie plant, and everybody definitely should try one.
I live in the north, and this week, across the northern states, it frosted in a lot of places. And so there were pictures.
Jealous.
uh, there were pictures, and the tomatoes were just, they hadn't covered them, and they were just basically they needed to be replaced. And people were going, well, what can I do? And I just had to tell them, really, this time of the year, you just need to dig them up and start again. It's not really worth trying to baby it all these months through the summer. So sometimes you have to take your losses. And because it was
Right.
unexpected that it would be that cold.
See, I guess for me and Monica living in the South, I can't even imagine getting a frost right now. Huh?
No,
I mean,
usually mine. Go ahead. You said you love it?
No, I said I would love it, but I think a frost for the South, especially for us, or a cold night is like 82.
Yeah, I think right now
be,
it's in like the 70s in the nighttime, and I'm like, this is the nicest night. It's so cool outside. Right. But no, I mean, my tomatoes, instead of freezing, I'm dealing with frost. I am dealing with the burning up. Like my leaves are like, help me. It's bad.
And remembering when to water, because I remember when Sandy was on one of our older podcasts, being able to water your plants deeper and less often instead of every day. But I'm having to, at this point, again, just because it's 4 billion degrees in Georgia, I'm having to deep water literally every day or every other day right now, because my zucchini squash are just, they're like, we will die on you right now. Test us. We will do it.
Well, at least you have some squash growing, right? Like my garden is so out of control. Even Carmen from Jesus Love and Homesteader, who will be on one of our podcast episodes soon, she came over to my house the other night and she was like, wow, that's some pretty aggressive grass you have growing in your garden. I was like, yeah, it is. I literally have grass growing in my garden. Hey, Gail, that is like, no joke, 6 feet tall, at least. It is out of control. It is out of control. It's you know what? It's all for the pollinators. I'm doing everything for the pollinators this year. That's what it is. I found a meme online the other day and I said, this is it. Everything's for the pollinators now. That mess of a garden, pollinators. That's it. That's all I'm doing. I mean, there were some tomatoes in there and they're up against the cattle panels that are there. And
she's talking about they were in there somewhere.
I can see the cattle panels and I can see the tomatoes like reaching up out of the depths of the grass, trying to live. I just don't know how it's going. So,
well, you might be surprised because my ideas of wild gardens sometimes.
Yeah.
And you just push through those weeds or that grass, and vegetables are tough. Tomatoes are extremely tough.
Well, they're trying.
And you might be surprised. They might shade their roots so they stay a little cooler down there. Yep. And it'll be interesting by the time summer's over.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I've gone in there a few times because I have a turkey living in there with her 6 babies. She's like one of my turkeys that's decided she owns the garden now. And so she lives her best life in there and she paces up and down the garden and she kind of makes a little footpath. So after another day or two, I'm probably going to have a really nice footpath because she walks the same pathway. So I have a feeling I'm going to be able to use her footpath really soon to get through my garden. Eric won't even go near it. He's so terrified of chiggers. He won't even go. He's like, I'm not doing that. That is going to be full of chiggers, and that's not the life that I live. So he won't go in there, but I will be going in there to see
about that life.
Yeah, I'll go in there and see what's up. I do have 2 cucumber plants in there too. One of them is Armenian cucumber, and another one is a pickling cucumber. And I did see those plants actually growing in there. So I might have 2 kinds of cucumber plants and maybe like 6 or 7 tomato plants actually thriving in the chaos that is my garden right now. But I don't know because I haven't really gone in there to check it out too much.
Well, speaking of cucumber plants, I have to say that I had a little issue with a good old deer that ate my cucumber plants 3 times in a row. So I replanted, but I went out there today to water and the ones are growing back. The cucumber plants are growing back. Is that possible, Sandy, or am I dreaming? Am I hoping and wishing?
Yeah, it could. Um,
Not
uh,
all of them, just about 4.
yeah, but do you have any chicken wire? Yeah, on your homestead, any place?
I'm sure I do somewhere.
Sometimes when I've had problems with deer or rabbits, I've just taken and just made a tube of chicken wire and kind of squeezed the top so it made it like a cloche. And
Oh,
I
okay.
just set it over there and put a little stake in there, and it'll give it some time to grow. Even if the deer come back, and you can
Right.
do that on tomatoes or on any plants, because
This year
sometimes
won't come back.
because homesteading, sometimes it's one of those years and there's a million rabbits or there's all kinds of deer, and when they're hungry they're going to eat vegetables that maybe they wouldn't have eaten otherwise, because
Yeah.
sometimes because one year we were really dry here, and my friends that live right out of town, the deer were literally eating the garlic, which they had never done.
Oh,
But it was really dry and they wanted green stuff. And so homesteading can be crazy and difficult and wonderful. And so I think Monica should just embrace that 6 foot tall grass and just say, okay, this is what my summer is this year.
yes.
No, I have actually, because even Eric is like, I don't know. I think he's frustrated because we put a lot of time into our garden, and we put a lot of work into that garden each year. And for me just to kind of have let it go, I think is overwhelming for someone with as much organization as he is. Casey knows. Casey's very organized like that. But I have just said, you know what? My back was hurting me. I wasn't going to hurt myself worse. And I wasn't going to put all that on my kids, because for me, I want it to be a fun experience for them, not just, I need you to go out and do X, Y, and Z for me. Plus, my garden is my like place of solace a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want them just trampling through my garden trying to fix what mom messed up or didn't take care of. So Eric is kind of like overwhelmed by looking at it. But for me, there's a piece to it as well that I'm just leaving it where it is. I'm thinking about it as a year that I'm maybe regenerating the soil a little bit. I'm giving the soil a break from all the planting that I do constantly. And I'm going to have a killer fall garden because I've already thought about what I want to plant. I have a few more weeks to get some fall garden items in. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get some things ready for fall time, and I'm going to just enjoy it and not worry about it.
Yeah, you did say you're going to have the best fall garden.
Yeah,
this year. That's going to be the.
And if that doesn't work out, then that doesn't work out either. I'm not going to.
That's also why we prep so much, in our pantries. Is
Yeah.
Some years are not a garden year. Like even though my garden is up, I'm just really not feeling it this year for the garden. I mean, I'm doing it because I need to prep stuff, but some years you just don't feel like it.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing that you have things prepped in the pantry so that you can use throughout the year, because you want to grow grass instead of tomatoes. And
there you go. Okay. Well, I do have some tomatoes. I have a rogue tomato out front growing in our cactus bin. It appears to be a Roma tomato. It's like that oblong shape. It's Roma, and it's an indeterminate, so it's growing everywhere. So I'm figuring it's a Roma the way it looks. And I said, you know what? It's fine. I will love you right where you are, even in the prickly cactus. So it's growing great, and it's outside of our yard. I also have, I don't even remember what kind of tomato I planted, but I planted it up by my house in a little pot, and that's growing, and I'm happy with that. And it's growing in a little pot, and it's doing its thing, and I've got it staked up like I'm a container gardener all of a sudden, and it's living its best life. And I make sure it has water, and I may not get a bunch of tomatoes off of it, but that's okay. I'll get what I get, and I'm not throwing a fit. That's what I tell my kids.
Every 7 years, I don't plant in my garden. So next year is it'll be year 21. And so I won't plant in my garden, and everything will be in containers. And I just let it go. If the weeds start growing, I do pull some and just lay it down onto the soil, or I'll weed whack and let it lay on the soil. But like you're thinking, Monica, that regeneration is important, because even that tall grass that at some point you just push down and lay down, all of that will biodegrade, and it will all help your soil.
Yeah. Hi, Karen. Well, that's what I've been doing when I have gone in there. I've just stomped it and like pushed it down. And Eric is like, I think it like mentally, you can see his like brain, like steam. There's steam coming out of his ears. He's like imploding because I'm not like going out there and cutting it and letting it lie. Cause I would chop and drop a lot of it through the seasons. I'm a chop and dropper, whereas he likes to chop it and take it and give it to the animals. And I'm like, that's fine. You can do that. But otherwise, I'm just going to chop and drop. I'm just going to leave it as it is and deal with it there. And I've just been pushing it down instead of chopping it. So I haven't been out there really in like 2 weeks. So whatever I push down is kind of like back up and it's waving at me from out in the garden area. It is what it is.
Well, at the community garden a couple of years ago, there was a section that was really thistles, a lot of weeds.
Yeah.
And so we planted annual ryegrass in there. And then we had this board that had 2 holes drilled in it. So there was a rope through it and you could walk and just lay that ryegrass down and as you went. And every so often, one of the gardeners would go do that again. And I tell you, it biodegraded and it helped that soil and it just made it so those weeds didn't have any sunshine. And it was just fabulous after the 2 years.
Oh, I love that. Well,
now, what about grass hay, Monica? I mean, does it really matter like what kind of grass it is to be grass hay? I mean, that's probably a newbie kind of question.
I don't know. I mean, we don't hay our field. We have 8 acres that they graze on and they just free graze all season. Right now we only have 4 cattle in our pasture. So we've taken the rest of them and moved them to other pastures so that they can have as much as they want at a couple different places during the spring and summer months. But usually come August, everything is brown here. I mean, in August, the past 3 years, we've had to feed hay in the middle of August. It's kind of rough, but I mean, we just feed them Bermuda grass or whatever grass we're able to get. We call it cow hay. It's nothing fancy. If we went for the special fancy hay that they feed their horses, the people around here, we would be paying an arm and a leg. I mean, we're already paying quite a bit for round bales here anyway. So we just go with the simple cow grass, which is, I guess, Bermuda or whatever they have in it. I don't, whatever it is. Eric just says, yeah, as long as you don't use fertilizers, I'll take it. He's pretty easy with that. As long as there's no fertilizers in the hay. We don't like fertilized grasses, which is problematic for us because then they put down whatever they're eating and whatever they put down is usually weeds. And so our fields aren't, something that we would roll into bales because honestly, it's a lot of weeds in there too, mixed in with the regular grasses, but it's enough for them to stay on grass for several months. So it's worth it to me.
Let me ask you both this question. At the end of the summer, when you have your tomato plants, do you just compost them? Do you put them in a pile and let the chickens eat them? What do you guys do?
I compost. And unless there's been a disease or something, I also leave my tomato plants until they're dead in there so that I think you were the one that told me, Sandy, to leave them in there because the nutrients will go back into the soil. Now I do it 1 because you told me to, 2 because it's easy and lazy until I have to figure out the next. But I do remember you telling me that. So I'm like, nope, Sandy says it. I'm going to leave it.
That's actually what I'm going to tell Eric too. I'm going to be like, you need to refer back to our Friday Live and check out that Sandy said I should just be at peace with my large grass field that I used to call a garden. Okay. You should listen to Sandy. She's really smart. No, yeah, I do the same thing, actually. I do the same thing. We just leave it until whenever. Because typically for me, I'm pulling tomatoes in November. I mean, I've gotten to tomatoes like coming off. And usually by that like actual first hard freeze, I can keep them safe during the frost because I have frost blankets that we will literally go out. And at like 9:00 at night when Eric's like super mad, he's like, why are we waiting until 9 p.m.? And I'm like, because it's the first time I remembered it was going to frost tonight and we cover all of our stuff. But if I can do that, we'll do that for off and on for a few weeks until they say it's going to hard freeze. You're in trouble. Get everything out of there. And I'm pulling every tomato, every green tomato, every single tomato. I'm throwing them in boxes when I get inside, whatever. But I pull everything off, but I just leave the plant. Usually because it's like 11 p.m. But also because I'm like, I'm just going to leave it there and nothing else is going in its place. Just leave it, let it be. And then we'll deal with it later. And that's what we do. We just deal with it in, January. Sure. So it just stays.
Or sometimes March.
Yeah. or sometimes never.
Well, I think I hear you when you said that you put it in like the boxes and that kind of stuff to ripen because there's a lot of stuff that I had to learn will ripen off the
Oh,
vine,
yeah.
and you lit it. And one of them is peaches because this weekend, the center of our peach tree, it's been so windy and there's so many peaches on it, it's snap and broke. So I was like, well, I
Oh,
guess we got to go and harvest a ton of them. And I'm like Googling and making sure I'm doing it right. And they said, as long as it looks 60% like it's starting to turn, you can pull it off, put it in brown paper bags or the cardboard boxes,
wow.
cool, dark, and it will ripen. So I got one of those big, like, you put leaves and stuff in it, those big, giant, like Home Depot bags, because we had 41 pounds of peaches. So I'm like,
Wow.
that's brown paper bags, right? Sure. So I put it in there. It's in my pantry. It's get ready to harvest. So it's interesting to know that tomatoes do that too.
Yeah,
That-
tomatoes will, as long as you don't forget about them. And
right.
then you have leakage in the bottom. But I only do one layer though. So you're pretty brave making a bag like that because I will do boxes and I do one layer only. And then I stack the box on top. And like I try not to layer anything because I have layered before, not really on purpose. And they like the one on top will ripen beautifully, but the one on the bottom will like give up its life and
Yeah.
then make everything else stinky in the whole box. And then I'm like, "Ugh," throw the box away, put it in the compost. So yeah, I don't layer mine though. That's pretty brave.
I'm a rebel.
Yeah.
No, we're doing something with it Saturdays.
Okay, so you have time. Okay, you're good. Well,
Yeah.
we have peaches too that I'm going to do that with this week. I didn't know they would do that because the wasps are eating my peaches, and I'm taking everything. I'm taking everything off the tree now. It's all going down.
Yeah.
No, they're the wasp are disgusting and tearing up some of my peaches. I'm just like,
mine too.
Fine, you have it. I've gotten enough. Hey, John.
When I come back from Arizona, I use tubs. I don't use boxes because I need a lid because we're traveling. And I just let those tomatoes ripen. And for a while, it's just one or two here and there. And I can look through the clear plastic and I can see if something's ripening underneath. And then I'm home about 2 or 3 weeks and all of a sudden everything ripens. And then I got to make tomato sauce or tomato juice or something. But it's so wonderful to have fresh tomatoes and you're just slicing them and it's just, there's just nothing like it.
Right.
The flavor is so amazing when you grow those tomatoes yourself.
Completely 100%. It's same thing with veggies and fruits and meats. When you grow it yourself, and then by chance if you have to accidentally buy it at the grocery store because you ran out, it doesn't taste the same anymore.
Right.
Not that you're bougie, it's just that it really does not taste the same.
Right. Yeah, all vegetables and fruit give off ethylene gas, and so when they're in the boxes, ethylene gas makes it ripen faster. And so it's contained in those boxes, and so it's going to ripen quicker than it would have otherwise.
And isn't it that I heard that a banana or an apple and with the peaches too helps them kind of ripen faster?
Yeah, it's because different fruits and vegetables give off more ethylene gas, and that's what's happening. It's all science.
Well, I'm just so excited to now know that by the end, I don't just have to make green tomato salsa verde. Because I know every year I talk about my salsa verde and I'll get that one comment where like, that's made with tomatillos, not with green tomatoes. I'm like, well, it's made with green tomatoes here and it's wonderful.
I did the same thing here before and my kids were like, this is gross. I don't like it. And I'm like, guess what? This is what we have. This is what we have.
You shall eat it.
You will eat it. Well, there's so many things you can do with green tomatoes though. So I was really surprised a lot of the things you can do. I'm not a huge fan except for frying them up, eating them that way. But I will say that there are so many different recipes with tomatoes, and I am very impressed when it comes down to it. Because, okay, so for instance, hey, Tammy. Okay, really quick, round robin before we go anywhere. What is your favorite tomato recipe? Or what's your favorite thing to do with fresh tomatoes when you get them? You can't just say canning. You have to give me an idea what you're going to can for or use with.
Well, I love a slicer so that I can put them with sandwiches. If I'm going to can it, actually, I like to make my own V8 juice. That's probably my favorite thing to do with the tomatoes. Because all your vegetables are ready and you just throw whatever vegetables in there. And it's just so fabulous.
Oh, I like it. Okay, Casey, what about you?
I was going to say kind of the same thing. I was going to say V8 juice because mom and brother Chris and Marcus all like the V8 juice, and I don't use it just for juice. In case anybody wants a Bloody Mary, an adult beverage, we have that too. But John said it. I salsa is hands down. We sell our salsa at the farmers market, so it's kind of like my go-to. And we're addicted to Mexican food, so
Yeah.
I will never have enough salsa ever.
Yeah.
What
So we
about
do
you, Monica?
salsa. Yeah, we do salsa. That's my favorite is the refrigerated salsa. But I will say I have a 16-year-old who is jonesing for a BLT almost every year. And I feel bad for him because this year I have no slicers that are ready or even available that I can see. And I always grow purple Cherokee because the Cherokee purples are absolutely Eric's favorite, hands down. They are everybody's favorite here. My kids that don't eat tomatoes will eat a Cherokee purple. So besides a BLT, we put them on our grilled cheese. We put them on our tuna melts. I mean, we put tomatoes everywhere this time of year. So my kids are really like, it's very lacking this year. They're like, do we have any tomatoes out there? And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Just no, we don't. But usually tomato or sandwiches. Yeah. Tomato salsa, obviously salsa or sandwiches. That's our favorite.
Now, right before we go, I want to ask both of y'all this for kind of not really a round robin, but because all of us, I'm sure, have been there. Tomatoes are a funny plant because they're like, oh, we're going to wait and all ripen all at the same time. So you have to harvest us in like 7 hours. What do y'all do if you get a full, like, giant haul of tomatoes? Do you go ahead and you process them right away? Do you let them sit? Do you freeze? I mean, what Sandy, what do you do when you get a giant haul of tomatoes?
Well, one thing, I don't usually ever grow determinate tomatoes because they are very notorious of doing that. And sometimes I don't have time for that. But like, I like making tomato pies. They taste kind of like an apple pie. You put cinnamon and stuff in there. That's good. But I don't put my tomatoes in the fridge. I put it on the counter unless I've already sliced them. And so then they will last a little bit longer. It takes a little bit longer for them to get mushy. But I usually just, if I'm pressed for time, I'm throwing them in the freezer. And then I can do something else with them later.
Yeah.
Monica, what about you?
Yeah, so typically I'll take a huge amount and make a bunch of refrigerator salsa because they say that I don't even know how long it's supposed to last in your refrigerator, but mine will last in my refrigerator for quite a while and it'll pretty much take us through the winter. So we have fresh salsa in there. But if I'm not making fresh salsa out of all of them, I am usually just canning them whole with a few basil leaves and I will take them and just can them whole and put them in my pantry because I can do anything with a whole tomato canned. Like that. I mean, I really can. I don't have many of those. I never really seem to do that part of it. I always just do fresh salsa because it's easy and it's eaten really fast here. Like, I mean, I don't think you realize like it takes a lot of salsa. I mean, it takes a lot of tomatoes to make a small batch of salsa for me or a big batch. And even my big batches, because I don't can them for good. I'll put them in a quart jar and put them in my my refrigerator. And a quart jar in my refrigerator only lasts maybe a week. Maybe a week. So yeah, we go through salsa a lot, especially because we like Mexican food here too. It's our favorite.
What do you do with it, Casey?
Yeah.
I'm, again, laziness sometimes. I will core it and I throw it in a Kroger bag in the freezer and we'll figure out, because one year I decided I was going to, and of course Destiny wants to chime in on this episode of the show more than anything else. I grew determinate one year and I did 200 feet of tomatoes. That was the year you came, Monica, and they all came at the same time. And nobody else was living at the farm but me this year. And so I watched a video, and I won't name the YouTuber, but they were like, core it, put it in a Kroger bag, figure out what you're going to do later. So I had freezers full of Kroger bags and tomatoes, and I used them, but yes, that's my easiest way.
Well, that was the first time I ever realized when you had your freezer full of tomatoes, that's the first time I realized you could do that. I never knew you could put whole tomatoes in a freezer bag and it would still be good. I just thought, well, they're just going to turn to mush.
And it's so easy to skin them too once they're defrosted, and you just pull it away. It's
no clue.
Mhm.
Such a cool hack. There,
Yeah.
I mean,
should have
because you're using it for like salsa or for sauces anyways.
yeah.
They don't do wonderful into like diced tomatoes, but for salsas and sauces, after you thaw them out, they're wonderful, and that's what I mainly use them for anyway. So
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and throwing them in soups.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes,
because I use my whole tomatoes in the chili a lot of times. Well, that's pretty much what I use them for. I just use them for chili. I'll just chop them up lightly and then throw them in my chili because we like big chunks of tomatoes in there.
yeah.
So
And Evie, yes, it's
Yes.
the most easiest thing. Make sure that you core it. I like to core it, get the stem off and all that kind of stuff. And then I literally do nothing else. I put it in a Kroger bag. I tie it up, or one of the plastic bags that you get from the grocery store. It doesn't have to be Kroger.
Mhm.
And then you have it for when you want to use it. You don't have to you don't have to make something right then and stress yourself out. Freezing, very
Yeah.
easy. I do it all the time. Yes, skin comes off so easily afterwards. Mhm.
Yeah.
So you don't have to blanch it. So that's because I am not a fan of blanching, only because it's hot, and then it's usually hot in the summer when I'm doing it. So
Well, I
it's
never
good
have enough
for
ice. Like
Huh?
like you blanch it and then you have to put it in like an ice bowl, like an ice bath. I never have enough ice. I'm like running out of ice, and I'm like, I really don't want to give up the ice to my tomato water when I could
Right,
be drinking a nice cold drink right now.
Yeah.
right, exactly.
So I feel selfish. So I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to blanch you. Just
The
gonna make the
blanch,
recipe with the skins.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'll just use the skins.
right,
Is what it is.
is what it is for the tomatoes. I'm trying to see if I missed any other questions that people asked.
Well, I was going to say thank you everybody that's come in. We have so many
Yes.
people in here that I didn't get a chance to really say hi to because everybody kind of came in different times. But Christy Betts and EVP and Tammy from Mountain Grandma. We've got Ginger working hard over here, dropping links with Jesse and Dorothy, the Cronaut's. How am I saying that? The Cronaut's wife. She's in here. Thank you for coming in. And I'm trying to think of anybody else I missed. John from Two Doves, Bees and Gardens. Gail from Gail Southern Living. Everybody's been in here. We appreciate you guys so much.
We appreciate y'all coming in.
Oh my gosh, we're so happy you're here joining us and giving us all your tips and all the things you're listening to us give you all the tips and stuff. And we're just happy you're joining us. We're excited you're here. And Karen's in here. Troy's in here. James was in here. Yeah, a bunch of people are in here. Jake Hudson. Teresa was in here. Everybody else. Anyway, we thank you for being in here. We appreciate you guys.
Yeah. So we just think it every single Friday when we come on and we're talking about our podcast that came out on Monday. It's just such a fun time to review and throw out those ideas and see what people are thinking and what they comment. And so we just really appreciate it. And we appreciate you coming in today. And make sure that you watch our podcast every Monday morning on Around the Hay Bale. And when we get 500 subscribers, we are actually giving some stuff away. So make sure you go over on YouTube and subscribe to us and like, and we just really appreciate it. And grow some tomatoes this summer, even if you start right now.
Yeah.
There's still time. There's still time. Don't worry.
Still time. And you guys can click the link in the chat. I've got the link for Around the Hay Bale in the chat right now. So if you're interested in going over and checking out Around the Hay Bale, the YouTube channel, you can click that link and get over there and get yourself in the drawing, because when we have our 500 subscribers, then we're going to start working on a giveaway. So.
And also share it. If you have friends or family that are into the homesteading stuff, send them our way. Send them our way, because we thoroughly enjoy doing this every single week and every season that we've done this. So if we can help anybody, we would send them our way. We would love to have them join the Hay Bale family. Yeah. So y'all, next week, make sure that you tune in, because we are talking about medicinals, getting your apothecary started. It was a really fun episode to shoot, so you won't want to miss that. So we will have Ann back next week. And again, thanks for coming in. We will see y'all next Friday. Bye, y'all. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Are you enjoying the Hay Bale topics? To learn more, click on our Linktree link to get all of our product recommendations, along with discount codes and more.
We're back.
And now live every Friday.
with new topics and a new time.
Don't forget, a new host.
Yay, that's right. Sandy joins the panel for Hey Y'all Hey radio show.
Now, on Fridays at 11 a.m. Central.
We'll see y'all there.